Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the 45, which is a weekly community conversation over coffee about all sorts of things. It was created um, as a result of what's happening this year. You know, it's been an interesting year. That's probably an understatement to say. My name is Jasmin Brand, and I'm an entrepreneur based in Dallas and love bringing people together. But I personally also had some challenges and started to realize other people were having challenges too. It wasn't just me, which I think was, I guess, helpful in a way, right? So that we know that we're all kind of going through this shared experience together. And that there's still hope, right? And the goal of this is to end our week with a little bit of self-care and some purpose, so that even if the week has been crazy, or the news uh, has crazy things going on, that we still can end every week with something that's positive and that keeps us moving forward. And so today's conversation, I think, is an interesting one. It's about productivity and anxiety, and it's how do we stop wasting time and get things done. And I'm a big procrastinator, and I used to think it was because I just was a procrastinator, but I think it's the perfectionism in there, which is driven by some anxiety for sure. So as I started kind of researching this topic, I was like, this makes sense why I'm kind of delaying things, not on purpose, but just because of some maybe anxiety I wasn't aware of. So today's conversation will be a great one. These are always recorded. And since these have started a couple of months ago, what I'm doing now is going to compile them all in one location for you. So if you haven't been able to attend one, or if you don't like to talk about intense things bright and early, you can play this later. Uh, and what's cool too, and I'll share this at the end of our conversation, is that I am really excited because we flushed out kind of some really fun conversations for the rest of the year. So I can kind of tell you a bit more about that. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and get started. You know, we can only do so much of a deep dive because we chat for 45 minutes, hence the name, the 45. So our goal really is just kind of get you thinking about some things, marinating, and then of course, answer any questions you have. Some of us have joined via Zoom. You can have your screen on or off. You can type your questions in the chat, or if you do want to pop on and talk directly, please feel free to do so as well. So our guest today is Vikki, and you know, Vikki and I met a year ago this week, actually, which is interesting, at an event I was hosting in Austin, and just stayed connected since then. I'm going to let her introduce herself because I feel like I give you your intro. I'll give you this some love, Vikki, but I'm sure I'm leaving some things out. But Vikki will be joining us to kind of guide us in this conversation. If you have questions for her, you can private message her or feel free to include them in the chat. So Vikki, thank you for joining us, and let us know where you are and tell us a little bit about what you do.
I wonder if I was here already when we spoke last time. I'm now in south of France.
Okay. I don't think
I
you
think maybe
were.
I was in,
I think you were in
no, I think I
England.
was in England. We
Yes,
had like a surprise
that's right.
COVID relocation. But here we are. So it's all good. A little bit about me. I am a coach and I host the Fuck Anxiety and Get Shit Done podcast. And really, my area of expertise is helping people master like their human brain and how our brains are designed, with anxiety, with the tendency to procrastinate, with some indecision, perfectionism, people pleasing, so that they can achieve more in less time without the hustle, right? Like I really I'm in the middle now of my group launch of a program called Time Hackers, which is all about, it's like hacking time to get the most bang for your buck. That's what I'm going to give you today as I teach you how to stop wasting time. And what I've decided to teach you today is really, there's going to be no cheap, quick, dirty tricks. This is really like the most bang for your buck, the most bang for your minute. Yeah, we have a saying in England, which is when you focus on the pennies, you miss the pounds. So I guess for the US, it's when you focus on the dimes, you miss the dollars.
I love that. I love that actually. Penny and pound.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot
Yeah.
Vikki too. We I don't know if you have coffee or anything with you. Are you drinking
So I
anything?
actually don't drink coffee, but I've got tea.
Okay, let's do a toast though. We should of course do one. I'm tapping you. Thank you for joining us. And as always, everyone, if you have questions, feel free to shoot them in. So Vikki, you know, this conversation, you wanted to how to stop wasting time. Let's just dive deep into it.
Yeah. So what I chose to teach you today was like the main problem that we have and what we see as the problem. It comes into like 3 buckets. Firstly, it's never the right time. Secondly, we just really need more time. And thirdly, we have things just take time. And when it's not the right time to do something, then of course, what we end up doing is pushing things off or delaying or waiting for that right time to happen. So we can wait for the right time to launch the business, or wait for the right time to go back to online dating, or wait for the right time to make that phone call, or even have that awkward conversations. We're just waiting for that right time. The second is when we need more time, what we tend to do is like multitask and juggle all the things, or rush through all the things, or set ourselves like a schedule where we're trying to get 20 things done in a single day. And the third is when things just take time. What we're basically doing is we are following someone else's timeline. I'm actually going to share a quick story that I think I might have shared last time, which was about a client multitasking, and she's a mum and a businesswoman, and she was like baking cookies with one child, making lunch for the family, and preparing beans for dinner at the same time. And the beans burnt. And I think it was like, bless her, I've shared this story everywhere. I'm not giving her name, but it's such a relevant example of what ends up happening when we try and multitask and do all the things, and we drop the ball on one thing, and that dropping of that one ball is cost us more time than had we just been more like methodical about it. And then in terms of letting things just take time, you'll have noticed this when people say like maybe getting over a heartbreak, that like it just takes time, or building a business, like just give it some time. And I don't know if any of you know the Roger Bannister story, but it's one of my favorites. Long story short, very long story short, because it was over 50 years. Roger Bannister was the person to break the running of the mile in under 4 minutes. And I mean, like the best scientists, the best trainers, the best runners were working on it for over half a decade when he did it. Once he did it, within 46 days, someone then beat his record. Poor guy, didn't hold it very long. And then the following year, 3 people did it, and now over 1,000 people have done it. So when we are following timelines set by other people, we are putting the ceiling on ourselves, where there is so much evidence that we literally can create our own timelines in all the ways. The actual problem is not any of those things, because as you can see, none of those solutions would really help. The actual problem, if we're thinking about what 80% of the problem is that we have a shitty relationship with time, and we build this habit of like waiting, rushing, or just like abdicating all responsibility and letting things go. And the compound effect of this is just like losing years and feeling more powerless. And again, obviously, like our anxiety feeds into why we would want to wait. We want to avoid anything that creates that anxiety, instead of realizing actually how to show up with anxiety.
Can I real quick too, Vikki, too, because I know the first time you were with us, you did you gave us a really kind of, no BS definition of what anxiety is. Can you answer that? And then also, it's almost I know the answer to this question, but if we know something is going to produce a certain effect, why do we continue to do it? So, for example, this whole multitasking, we know the outcome most of the times, yet we continue to do it. So what's anxiety? And then as you start to kind of tell us about this, why do we repeat things if we know it's going to have the same outcome?
Okay,
or is that just me? This might be the question just for me.
No, it's everyone. It's all
Okay.
good. All our brains. So how I define anxiety, and I'll even backtrack because I guess the first one wasn't recorded. So how I define anxiety is it's a vibration in our body. It's a feeling. We feel it in our body, caused by our thoughts. And when I went, so a bit of background on my anxiety story, a few years ago, waking up with panic attacks, not knowing what they were, went to Dr. Google, that told me anxiety was a generalized feeling of worry, unease, and apprehension, which basically told me F all. So I started to think about what actually was anxiety for me, because it can't just be a feeling of feelings, a feeling of worry, a feeling of apprehension. How is it different? And I sat with like what it was for me, which was like a heart pounding, a heat all over my body, shortness in breath, like there was like a heavy weight on my breath, sometimes tingles up and down my arms. And I also have clients that have dizziness or a swirling in their stomach or a nausea. So for anyone experiencing anxiety, 100% I recommend defining it on your terms. What exactly is anxiety for you? Because otherwise, I mean, the way we all use that word is really different, and our anxiety feeds off that vagueness. The more we're like, I don't know what's happening, the more anxious we feel, versus I know exactly what's happening. I need to, for me, it was like, I need to make sure I'm sat down, open my legs, maybe put my head between my legs, make sure I'm breathing out slowly. Like once you know exactly what the sensations and what the reactions are in your body, like physiologically, you are going to have a different experience than, here comes anxiety, I don't know what's going to happen. So that's a really important question. And then the reason why we keep doing things when we know we shouldn't be doing them, or we know they're not going to work, is because we have two parts to our brain. We have our prefrontal cortex brain. This is our part of our brain that's like very conscious and is like, I'll give you an example. So I'll say, all women, I think all women belong in the boardroom. And I will like, show up that way and discuss that. And then I had the other part of my brain, which is like the primitive brain, which has evolved over 40,000 years. So most of that time was in the wild, right? And our primitive brain is very much like cave woman, caveman, seek pleasure, avoid pain, conserve energy. And it's highly motivated by its one job, which is to keep us alive in the wild, because that's what it's like developed to do over our evolution. And this part of my brain is the part of my brain that will say, when I'm in the boardroom, like, well, no one wants to hear what you have to say. Don't say that. You're going to sound stupid. It's kind of like wired to seek pleasure, which is why we spend a lot of time scrolling online or drinking wine or having sugar or whatever it might be. It's also wired to avoid pain, which can be like, let's avoid any failure or rejection or anyone else having any opinion of us. So any exposure at all, which can be why people like don't feel great about speaking in front of public places, right? Not in front of public places, in public places, in front of crowds. And the third is to conserve energy. And that's why we are creatures of habit. Our brain's like, oh, we just like do this thing. For all of you that made a cup of coffee this morning, if your coffee is in the same place and your bed is in the same place, that journey is like your brain loves it, because it's like, I don't even remember making my coffee. Your brain is on such a high efficiency level. What that means for why we, repeat the same habits, it's like our prefrontal cortex brain requires more energy. We don't spend a lot of time here. We spend a lot of time here. So we can logically know, like, actually multitasking isn't going to serve me. But
This
as
is
long
why
as
you continue to date the same person over and over.
right. Which if you have exactly, it's like stay away from dicks like that, and then it's like, oh, how did I do it again? It's the habit, it's our brain, like we know consciously. And I think this is what part of coaching is. It's like focusing your brain on the conscious choices you want to make, having the resistance come up, because your brain will resist change, because it literally likes habits and it only cares about you staying alive, and it doesn't care about you dating an asshole. It's like, whatever, we're alive, who cares? Like, it doesn't really matter if we like get out of bed, if we eat the chocolate, like, so what? Let's just do those things because we're alive. Let's celebrate. So that's exactly what's happening there. Good questions.
So if we think about right now, right? So this idea of anxiety and just being stressed out. I mean, we had the debates last night, right? So just even having all of that kind of noise in your mind, in your ear. And then on top of, a lot of us have children that are at home with us and trying to balance that. And then, the uncertainty with jobs, and or if you still have your job, you're having to do 2 to 3 times what you were doing before. And for business owners, the uncertainty of how to plan forward, because we don't know what's around the corner. This is an unprecedented time. So we know how we were dealing with things before COVID and before all the upheaval this year. How does this year impact, us wasting time? Because maybe before COVID, we were already having some issues with productivity, but now we're in this kind of new wilderness, if you will. Like, how does that impact everything, what we're going through right now?
Yeah, listen, life has always been shit. Like there's been wars, there's been like literally like illness and sickness, and maybe always not on like a global scale, but also sometimes, yeah, on a global or national scale. And um, the biggest time waste that is happening right now, because our brain's one job is to keep us alive, and it's like, oh my god, there's danger, especially I think it's calming down now, but at the beginning with COVID it was like everyone's dying, we're going to die. I had one client that was like, there's an apocalypse happening. Like really our brain got our anxiety in that part of our brain got louder because this is its one job to keep us alive. So that's happening. But the main issue that we have is like arguing with what is and doing unproductive things. Like there's like what's going to get you your goal, and then there's what your primitive brain cares about. And your primitive brain is all up in the drama and all up in the can'ts and all up in the self-judgment and the self-criticism. And that's eating away more time. So let's say there's like the kids being home, and that's a fucking problem, right? And it's like we need to adjust to it. And instead of adjusting to it, what we end up doing, and this brings me to like the actual solution, it's like we talk shit about it, we complain, we have a pity party, we get validation from other people, all of that stuff that feels really good in the moment but actually doesn't help us. It's like eating away more our time and even more our confidence and feeding our anxiety. So like we want to be mindful of the way we talk about time and the way, like I call it, stop talking shit about time. But it's like we can sit in the problem and speak about the problem and justify it all we want, or we can give ourselves time. Like I think it comes down to this: decisions for kindness and growth. Don't make dickhead decisions. Give yourself time for like an hour bath or like an hour, like whatever self-care thing that you are doing. Like don't try and get 20 things done in a day. Like really make kind decisions, but also make decisions for growth, and be sure that you are still moving forward in the direction you actually want to. Otherwise there will always be a drama to consume you. So really stop talking shit about time is one. And the second thing I wanted to speak to you about today was love and really appreciate your straight talk, Vikki. This shit is real. Yes, I'm definitely known for straight talking. A lot of swearing. I promise it's 3:30 for me, so it's not quite, I'm sorry for the 8 a.m. swearing, guys. The second thing that I think we never really taught how to do is invest our time for a return. Like we think about investing money for a return, but it's the same with time. Like what can you do today that makes your life easier tomorrow? What can you do today that makes your life easier next week or in 6 months? Like I have one client and she told me she took like 2 full days off work to invest in a process that she does time and time again to make it better. And like that was probably painful, but at the same time that pain now means that she's got a repeatable process that pays off in dividends in the future. So even for everyone watching, like it might be you've got the kids, you've got the business, you've got all of this stuff. It might be like spending an hour or 2 hours on a Monday morning planning like how you and your partner or whatever are going to spend your time, so that I actually have the 3 hours this week to get that one thing that really is super important done. When we're like just go 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 go, we like just spend it like it's going out of fashion, when really you want to start thinking about making that investment.
So it sounds like finding time to plan out the time. But I think some of the challenges a lot of us are having is that there's really no separation now, right? So before you could kind of, I hate to use the word escape, but you could escape your place, you get your coworkers, your spouse, your children. I mean, you had some time, or you could go out to happy hour, or you could go have lunch, by yourself or whatever. Now this life is this continuum where you wake up and you're being bombarded by your social posts on your feed from friends and family. You've got a continuous news cycle that seems to be very negative. I think current administration also has the tone, our administration here in America, it seems to be always something going on, which is really challenging to do. And then you've got the Zoom meetings, which this is of course is on Zoom, but you've got us all now doing everything online, and there's no separation between work and life, and you're sitting there. And so almost like feels like you're working more hours. So if someone did want to kick off their Monday morning, say, hey, I'm going to plan things out, where would you have the space, or how can we start to feel like we need to make times? I think some of the challenges with wasting time is this thing of putting ourselves first, and identifying that our needs and us getting things done is extremely important. But I think taking that first step can be hard. So maybe some thoughts on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's so true because our brains are very much all or nothing. And it's either like I'm either going out for hours or I'm going out for lunch, or like there's no point doing anything. Or even to take it back, like I'm either working out for an hour or I'm not working out at all. And I think don't underestimate the power of 5 minutes and or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of, like, maybe you can't go out. Maybe that 10 minutes is lying on your bed, having a 10-minute snooze, or reading a book for 10 minutes, or listening to your favorite, like for me, my favorite thing to do is just put on like 2 or 3 songs that I love, literally by myself. I can't believe I'm confessing this, but here we go. By myself, and like dancing around to it by myself. Like it's just like me and the music, and it feels
What
fucking
song,
great.
Vikki? You have to share what song this is now. Like, is it like I don't? I'm just trying to imagine what that. Like, is it back that thing
um,
up? Like, is it classical?
yeah,
Old Britney? What is it?
so it's been Diana Ross. I'm coming up. And also, this is a random one. B.O.B. I got the magic in me.
Okay.
Stop singing
Okay.
now because that's not what you hear. Everyone's gonna like immediately drop off. But think about those little things. Even when we speak about that investment, it's exactly that. It's like, what are the intentional things that you can do? Because sometimes when we feel like we have no control, having control over 10 minutes has the difference, has that impact, and takes us out of like, I don't have time, I like abdicating all that responsibility to like, actually I can choose. And like sometimes I'm choosing to not get any work done today because my house is a shit tip and the kids are all, whatever it might be, and that's okay too. It's really like, to bring it back to the first point, a time spent in arguing with what is, or judging what is, or shaming what is, that's such a time killer. So what are the habits that you want to build, and how can you introduce them in a consistent way? I
So
can see some.
Olivia has a point that I do this, and I know I have several just colleagues and friends that do this too. Sometimes the list is too full. I'm just like, I'm just gonna go watch The Real Housewives of New York. Now, Olivia didn't say that, but that is my guilty pleasure. I mention this on a weekly basis because I'm addicted to this show. Not the new episodes, the old ones. So when I get very overwhelmed and I have a huge list, it's just like my inbox and just contact forms in general are insane. And I'm like, okay, today, Jasmin, you're tackling the emails, you're tackling your inboxes, and then I'll get another 40 or 50. And I'm like, so that sense of paralysis of getting things done. What is a tip for Olivia and for the rest of us that are like, I just shut down because I have too much to do? Is this when we should play like, this is when we should kind of take a break first and move forward? Or should we just like, what technique would be great to get around that?
Firstly, let me also add that my phone is on airplane mode 90% of the time. Like your phone is not the boss of you. And even if you want to switch it on, don't connect it to Wi-Fi. If you need emails, put it on cellular, switch everything off. All this, like, I have no notifications, none of that shit. That's like someone getting in touch with you and interrupting your time on their schedule. And it's not you taking responsibility and being in control of your time and your distractions.
Vikki, I'm in a bad relationship. You just clarify that. I'm in a horrible relationship and the phone is the boss of me. So I got anxiety just hearing about turning it on airplane mode. So we'll have to talk about that after.
We can definitely talk about that. And it's like a completely normal thing because this is how we communicate, and we think we have to be available all the time. And as long as we think we have to be available all the time, what we're really saying is we have to be available for other people all the time, which leaves us burnt out and tired to be available for ourselves. The phone are evil. Yeah. Phones are great, but they're evil as well. Yeah.
No, they're
Like we've just never
evil.
been
He's
taught how to use
right.
them.
They are evil.
We just never were taught how to use them. We were just handed these objects, and then they've just gotten more and more complex, and they make money the more we use them. And the people behind them literally use psychology and brain knowledge and all the things that I teach people about to have us use them more. That's the business model. That's the money model. And knowing that, I think, immediately allows you to be like, oh, am I making someone else money and being on my phone? Or am I making myself money? Or am I giving my family time? That's literally the choice. I'm just going to be very fucking honest about it, because that's how it is. So yes, you might have anxiety switching your phone off. You know what you can do? You can sit and process your anxiety, because guess what anxiety is? Vibrations in your body, heart pounding, heat rising, shaking. Like, it's worth, that's what I mean about the investment. You can invest in learning to allow the anxiety and the discomfort of having your phone off, so that for years to come, you are fine having your phone on airplane mode. That's exactly it. It's not just an investment of time. It's also an investment of energy and emotion, for sure. And our brain's like, but that seems uncomfortable now. And this part of our brain is like, let's do what's most comfortable now. And as long as we keep doing what's most comfortable right now, we're going to keep responding to emails and answering calls and WhatsApps and messages and Slacks and all of this different shit that is not actually where we want to be going. So we're in a constant state of reaction, which feeds actually more anxiety, but feels better in the moment. And we literally get a dopamine hit when we like replied. We're like, obviously I'm going to not do this 1 hour project. I'm going to reply to this email quickly, because then I get to check something out. I know you.
I literally, you are, I'm like, is she in my house? Like, what? That is literally me. I have a stack of stuff to do. And I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead. And then I'm also with me emails too. I'm going to spell check this thing. I'm going to edit it, like take so much time on it. Marcella has a really good point about, and I think you mentioned this earlier, about language. So like she said, I feel I have so many projects to do, but difficult to complete them. So it's this whole idea of talking about our relationship with time, right? How can we like rewire and reprogram that statement? Because I think when you say that, because I say it every day, I don't know how I'm gonna get all this done. That immediately in my mind is like, you're not gonna get it done.
Yeah.
So how can we reframe that, like this idea of having so much to do?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the thoughts that I have is I'm always choosing how I spend my time. I just noticed that I'm always, which doesn't mean that I'm always doing the right thing. I can still choose to be on Facebook, or I can choose, yeah, or I can choose to check my socials. But instead of abdicating that responsibility, I'm always choosing. And what that means is, it's like something we can already believe that feels better than I don't have enough time. It's kind of like a ladder. We want to take a ladder into like the ideal relationship with time, right? I always say, like, we're not looking for a quick fuck. It's like we're investing in this relationship. So one step could be, I'm always choosing how I use my time. And that might be, I'm using my time, like, I can see that I used my time to take a shower. Well, that was a good thing. I can, like, in what ways are you already using your time well? Because our brain's so all or nothing that it's like, I'm terrible with time, I always have too much to do, versus I actually always get shit done. Like, I'm that person that I can just rely on myself to get it done, even if I like, where are you already good with time? Because it's not all or nothing. And each of you all showed up here, or you're watching the replay. So you've given time for you, for yourself. You are already doing some of the right things. Don't let your brain, this part of your brain, bully you into thinking that you're doing it wrong. You are not. You are already doing things right.
Can we talk about that too? And we've got about 15 minutes. So if you guys have questions or thoughts, please share them. But I think some of this idea of procrastination, of time, of kind of beating ourselves up, is about value systems, self-esteem, and then fear, which I feel like that's all in there, right? And I think that was such a huge point you just made, because technically we always are going to be there and get it done. I may be raggedy and it might not look that great, but we still, most of us will show up, or we're going to try our best. We're not going to just like phone it in. I mean, there's times when I definitely have, but I always am like, I go bounce back, because I just think that's survival technique. And I know for men and women, but especially women, especially mothers, I know my friends that are mothers are like super women. They're going to always find a way to get it done, but yet we still kind of beat ourselves up and we say we're never going to get this done. So maybe what's the relationship between how we feel about ourselves, this fear of maybe success or happiness, and how does that tie into this whole thing of wasting time?
It's everything. Everything, every decision you make comes through how you think about yourself. And if you, it's like how we can, like, someone external can set a meeting with us and we'll show up. And maybe for us, we're like, oh, I really wanted to do that, but I'm not going to do it. And we build a habit of putting off the little things. Everything starts with how you speak about yourself. Your voice is in your head more than anyone else's voice. And it really is a habit in the way we speak about ourselves. And it's a habit in terms of self-criticism. Again, like, your brain by habit is going into the like self-criticism lane. It's like, this is how we drive, this is what we do. It's got a negativity bias. It's how it's wired. You just get to be like, okay, my brain wants to go here. what is one thing I appreciate about myself? What is one thing I've done successful today? And I really recommend you write those two questions down and answer them every single morning, because it will take you a few minutes, and it's, instead of going from here and expecting to be here, it's like slowly backing up. So,
Can you repeat those again too?
pardon?
Can you repeat those questions again?
Yeah, so I can't remember if I said them exactly, but it's along the lines of like, what is something I like about myself, and what is something or like I'm proud of, and what is something I've done today or did yesterday that went well. So your brain's like, this is everything that's going wrong, putting out all the fires, and it's like ignoring this whole side of things where you are already doing things well. You already like some things about yourself. Yeah, what is something I like about myself, and what is something I've done today or yesterday that went well? Thank you. Yeah, exactly. So it really is in the repetition and the habit. It doesn't need to be this like big, long, grand, massive gesture. It's like, if you answer that question every single, I actually do morning and then close. So like 9 a.m. and 5 or 6, whenever it is. Yeah, you like that you make time for Friday the 45.
Me
Exactly.
too,
The
Lord.
Friday 45.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this is such a huge point. I want to make sure, because you said it earlier, and it's one, I feel like that's one of those kind of spiritual church moments too, like when you said it about the things we say and our actions are a direct reflection of how we feel about ourselves. So if we are wasting time, or if we're putting things off, or if we're afraid to get started, or if we're putting more weight into social media. Now, I have been getting in, now I never get in arguments with people, but I have, and I think it's a distraction. Like, I'll see somebody post something crazy and it's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, why am I responding to this?
Yeah.
And I think it's because I'm already thinking about my to-do list. But I want to just make sure we understand it. Like, how we feel about ourselves is directly correlated to the actions we
Exactly.
do, right?
Exactly. And we've all been taught and raised in like society is where we've been taught that productivity makes you a good person. And it's not fucking true. Like, I'm just letting you all know, there's no one on the gates of heaven or whatever you believe in that's like, how much work did you get done there? Let me just check on that. And it's really about unlearning the systems and what we've been taught. For me in my own journey, and maybe you even recognize this in me, like I was very much like hustle, go, succeed, on it. I want to be a successful business. I'm going to go. Like, no, like I'm just not wanting to do that anymore. You all deserve time for yourselves, and you can do it. And I want to reach out because we've got a message from Danielle. Yeah, we're human beings and not human doings. Love that. So Danielle said, I'm working from home with a 10-month-old and I'm just go, go, go until bedtime. Maybe waking up early to have some me time and plan the day will help with my anxiety. Yeah, just really like allowing your, like, even you might want to set aside 5 minutes and be like, okay, anxiety, this is your time. I'm just going to allow you to be here and I'm just going to get to know you the same way I told you what I felt. It like, where does it show up in your body? Is it in your chest, your stomach, your head? Just be like, all right, we're going to be hanging out for years, so I might as well let you be here. And at the same time, like spending that few minutes asking those two questions. So really, and I don't know what it's like to have a baby, so I'm not going to pretend I do, but maybe even when the baby is sleeping, just like having that time to answer those two questions and giving yourself some fucking credit for all that you're doing. You're
And
amazing.
giving yourself permission to put yourself first. And I know for some reason we have this challenge where it's this voice that's saying, maybe it's guilt or whatever, that's saying, if I take this time out, I'm not going to be able to address these other pieces. But the whole point is, like you said, productivity, we're not getting awards for it. Because if you get everything done, but then you don't have any energy for yourself or your friends, family, or
Yeah.
anything, kind of what's the big point of that? So we've got about 9 minutes, Vikki, and I want to, because I want to make sure we end the time with how people can connect with you and start stalking you like I have for the
Yeah.
last year. And her podcast is phenomenal. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But can we kind of go over, especially we had a couple of people join in a little later, maybe some original points. So the, why are we wasting time? This balance, this challenge between the front of our frontal lobe and the back, and then maybe some tips or strategies that we can start applying right
Yeah.
now.
So the reason we waste time is because we're waiting for the right time, which I'll elaborate on a little bit for a second, which is we think that things are going to feel better. We're thinking, oh, we should feel good all the time. This should feel great all the time. That's when it feels right. Whereas often the things that we are choosing to do might be uncomfortable. Like for you, Jasmine, it might be like putting your phone on airplane mode feels uncomfortable. So your brain's like, well, wait for the right time. It's not going to be on a Friday. It's definitely not going to be today. We'll start
Yes.
next Monday. Like lies, brain, lies. We can start immediately. And the second reason is we always think that we don't have enough time. And when we come at our schedule in our life as though we don't have enough, we make terrible decisions on rushing, or I've got 20 things to do today, or I don't have time for three. I have to, like, multitasking, and that story that I shared about burning the beans. And we also just like allow other people to dictate our time and set the schedules and the timelines, and we're just like subconsciously, this is what we were taught in school, right? Like there's nothing wrong that we do this. Of course we do this. The reason why I'm addressing this with you today is because I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to question what other people think you can and can't do in your time. And I don't mean getting 20 things done in a day. Actually, it might mean when you do 2 things in a day consistently and you take proper rest for yourself, you get more done. Like it's not the hours you put into work is not what creates the output ever. So that's on that point. And then we spoke about anxiety and what it is, and really it just being like something we feel in our body. It can be our heart pounding, it can be a heat, it can be tingling up and down your arms. Like anxiety is the release of hormones like dopamine, not dopamine, definitely not dopamine, cortisol and adrenaline from your brain into your body, so you can run away from tigers and feel less pain and be more alert for like any potential danger. Really useful in the wild, not so useful in our apartments during a pandemic. But nothing's gone wrong and you will 100% survive all the anxiety you have, because you always have. The reason our brain thinks it's so dangerous is because throughout our evolution, it was a reaction to imminent danger that then released those hormones, that then our body was like, oh, anxiety's here, I guess that means we're going to die. And like we're all like, it was like highly motivated to keep us alive, because that's our brain's one job, is to keep us alive. Really, we spoke about time as an investment, and really it doesn't have to be a big investment. Someone can invest, can put away $5 a month and that can add. And it's the same with your time. If your brain is you might get off the phone to this, off the Zoom, and your brain might tell you, I'll do the 5 minutes or the 2 questions on Monday, or like it's not the right time today because I've got a lot to do, or I'll do it later, or whatever excuse it gives you. It's going to give you excuses because it doesn't want you to create a new habit. But you have to decide consciously with this part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, where you want to go, when your primitive brain is only concerned with you being alive and doesn't care about how you feel or your enjoyment or even your sanity. It's like, we're alive, aren't we? Why are we complaining? So those are the key takeaways from today. I probably recommend watching it back because I think I've spoken quite quickly.
Oh, no, for sure. Well, and I think, the basic thing is to pause and to start giving yourself time, and to reevaluate your relationship with how you're speaking about your time and getting things done too. I think I definitely will challenge us all, not to wait till Monday to answer those questions you mentioned, which were, what is something I like about myself, and what is something I've done today or yesterday that went well. I think some of us may have challenges answering those, because I think we just don't think about ourselves in that way. So I think that's a really great way, and maybe to dip our toe in the water with this, is just to answer those questions, because it might take you the 5 minutes to kind of breathe. I'd put some music on too. Now it's too early over here, I think. Well, actually, some people like to sprinkle a little Baileys in their coffee, Vikki. Whatever you guys need to do to relax, because this is sometimes really tough work, right? It's challenging. And eventually, I think as you start to do this, you won't need anything. You won't need, oh, I've got to put candles on and do these things. But I think whatever you have to do to get to a place where you can kind of pause, it's like meditation for me. It's one of the most challenging things for me. So I've done whatever I need to do. I've got candles going. I got like a wind machine, aromatherapy playing, just so I can start it. And if it's only a minute, I'm giving myself credit for that. So what is something I like about myself, and what is something I've done today or yesterday that went well? I think the other thing was to take 5 minutes, and then whether it's playing music, taking a quick nap. Now I can't do a 10 nap because I will be gone for that day. But for some of us, just kind of stretching, getting up and moving around, I think is really important too. So any final thoughts, Vikki, that we need to know? And then I also want to make sure you share for those that want to stay connected with you. Are you accepting clients? Like, what's that process? And then how can we find you and keep kind of engaged with you too?
Yes. So the last thing I'll share is really like really we are all way more capable than our brain wants us to believe. Like every single one of you, every single person watching, our brain is highly primed to have us play small and to mean talk us just because it wants. It's like that protective mum that's like, don't go for that job, or don't do that scary thing, or don't go on that roller coaster, it's going to be dangerous. And you're like, but it's fun, and then I felt amazing afterwards. Even if it wasn't always fun, actually. Roller coasters up and down, literally. So it's just very protective of us. But you are, and it's playing small, and that playing small is what keeps us in the self-criticism cycle and impacts our confidence and feeds our anxiety. And the more we see it play out and the more we respond to it, the more true it becomes. So really, like, something as simple as those two questions just like cuts in and starts to like slowly chip away. And again, really, it's the simple things on repeat that create compounding impacts. This work doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be tiring. So yeah, I'll leave with that. And the best way to stay in touch with me is to follow me on Instagram, where I post lots of videos and posts and talk through all this shit all the time. And on my
What's your
podcast.
profile for the Instagram?
Oh, I'll share it in the comments.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Good job, you're here. That's me in the comments. And then there's the podcast, which is Fuck Anxiety and Get Shit Done. I currently have a group program, so I'm not taking on any more one-to-one clients. I have a group program launching November 4th. There's still some space left. It's called Time Hackers. It's where I really deep dive into this. It's a 3-month program, really going into time mastery. Like I said, we're taught how to use it, and so we just use it and use it and use it. I'm going to teach people how to master it and get more done and accomplish more in less time without the hustle, and being kind to themselves along the way.
I love that. So can we get information? Is your website, is it VikkiLouise.com?
Yes, it's VikkiLouise.com, VIKKILOUISE. Hi, Nicole. That's so fun.
I hope I spell it. That looks like that. Is that correct? VikkiLouise.com?
That's totally correct. I'll even leave a link to the podcast as well. To be honest, the podcast is also a great place to start. I hear from people all the time how it's like changed their lives, and it's some work I'm very proud of, and it's like 10-minute episodes, right? Because I'm onto your brains. But there is swearing. Well, obviously, there's swearing in the title. But thank you all for showing up. Thank you, Jasmin, for arranging this. It's so amazing to see how you've built with it and what you've done. You're such an amazing person.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Vikki, thanks so much for joining us and for your support. And I love having you on for a conversation, because you break it down. There's no BS. And I feel like with all of the stuff going on, that's what we need right now too. So I will be sending an email out in case you didn't see. So we'll have all of Vikki's information. So if you missed it, that's okay. And I hope you guys will join us next Friday. We're here every Friday, 8:15 a.m. Next Friday, we'll have on Paige Chenault, who's an incredible woman. She's got a nonprofit called the Birthday Project. And our topic will be when passion and purpose collide. And she's created this amazing nonprofit. They will throw birthday parties for homeless children. So it's a very incredible mission of an organization. So I can't wait for you to meet her and to share that as well. So remember, you guys, take 5 minutes, right? Play some music. I think I'm going to play something. I don't know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to play something. 5 minutes, because you deserve it. So have a great rest of your day, a great weekend, and I hope to see you next Friday. Bye. Thanks, everyone. See you, Vikki.
Bye. Thank you.